Have you ever stopped to wonder if there's some kind of hidden pattern connecting everything? I mean, from the smallest particles all the way up to human civilization. Is there a single rule? Well, today we're diving into a new framework that says there is, a universal law that might just explain how everything in the universe is connected.
You know, we're surrounded by all these different sciences: physics, chemistry, biology, sociology. They often feel like their own little separate islands of knowledge. So the big question is, how do we build the bridges between them to see the whole map?
And this really gets to the heart of the mystery. We know reality has these distinct layers, right? There's the physical world, the biological world, and the social world. But how do they actually connect? How do you get from a universe of particles to a world full of people?
What this really shows is that our understanding is kind of fragmented. We're great at explaining what happens within each of these layers, but we really struggle with the transitions between them. It's like we're missing the instruction manual, the blueprint for how the universe actually builds itself.
But what if there is a blueprint? What if there's a simple, repeating code that drives all progress and creation? This is where we start our investigation, by trying to uncover this hidden pattern.
And here's the thing, the code itself is surprisingly simple. It really just has three parts. First, you've got energy. That's just the raw potential for anything to change. Second, you need a structure, something to contain and organize all that energy. And third, you need direction, a guiding purpose that tells the structure what to do.
And this brings us right to the main event, the Universal Law of Increasing Complexity, or ULIC for short. It says that whenever those three things, energy, structure, and direction, all click into place, something new and more capable emerges. A whole new layer of reality is literally born.
Okay, so let's follow this blueprint and see how it actually plays out. We can picture the universe as building itself up one level at a time, almost like it's climbing a giant staircase of complexity.
So how do we even know when we've hit a new step on that staircase? Well, the key is this thing called the law of explanatory discontinuity. It's really just a simple test. You know a new layer has emerged when the old rules just don't work anymore. That failure is the big signal that the universe has just leveled up.
Let's take our first example, the huge leap from physics to chemistry. Physics is amazing at describing individual particles, but its laws alone can't predict the weird properties of a water molecule just by looking at its hydrogen and oxygen atoms. To do that, you need a whole new rulebook, and that's chemistry. That's our first big jump.
And the pattern keeps going. Chemistry explains how molecules react with each other, but it totally hits a wall when it tries to explain how those same molecules organize themselves into a living, self-replicating cell that can adapt and evolve. For that, you need biology. Another step up, another brand new set of rules. And we see it again with the jump from biology to society. The science of how one organism works doesn't really explain how groups of them create culture, laws, and a shared purpose. That takes the language of sociology and economics. Every leap reveals a completely new layer of organization.
Okay, so we've mapped this staircase from atoms all the way up to societies. But this brings up a huge question, doesn't it? We started our story with atoms, but where did they come from? It feels like there's a missing step right at the very bottom.
And that leads us to the most crucial question of all. What was the very first act of creation? How did all that pure, chaotic energy at the dawn of the universe first learn how to organize itself into something stable? How did it learn to just persist?
To answer this, the framework proposes this really fascinating idea, a theoretical first step, a hidden layer called nixa. You can think of it as the universe's first rough draft. It's this hypothetical pre-material field where pure energy first condensed into the stable little particles, like quarks and leptons, that would go on to build everything. It's the missing bridge between formless potential and actual structured matter.
A quote from the source material captures this perfectly. It says, "Nixia was the universe's first success at survival." It's the moment that pure possibility turned into something that could actually last, something that could build on itself and accumulate experience. It basically paved the way for everything that came after.
So, if this blueprint can explain the past, from Nixia all the way to society, can it also help us see what's coming next? Let's try and use the ULIC to look for new layers of complexity that might be forming right now as we speak.
So if we look at the big thresholds, we can really map out this progression. We start in the physical domain with Nicaea, where energy itself learned order. Then comes the biological, where matter learned to preserve itself. Then the social, where humanity started to govern all that biological energy. And now we're seeing an emerging layer, where it looks like civilization is externalizing its own mind. And that staircase just keeps on going. We can start to see the faint outlines of the next layers forming. Things like digital cognitive networks, where human and AI minds merge into a kind of planetary intelligence. Or maybe ethical directional systems, where societies coordinate around shared values, not just laws. And maybe even a layer of planetary coherence, where the Earth itself starts to operate as a single, self-regulating system.
So what this all reveals is a kind of universal rhythm, a simple, really elegant pattern, where lots of small parts align their energy, their structure, and their direction to create a new, more capable whole. From particles to people to planets, it looks like the same logic applies every single time.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory about the cosmos. It's actually a practical blueprint. Once you understand this pattern, you can use it to design better systems, whether that's building a more collaborative company, a more resilient community, or a truly sustainable future. It's all about consciously aligning our own energy, structure, and direction.
This leads to a really powerful final thought. The law of increasing complexity teaches us that progress doesn't come from erasing differences, it comes from integrating them. The most stable and capable systems are always the ones that can harmonize many different parts into a coherent whole.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative question. The universe is clearly still building, still climbing that staircase. And we, as intelligent beings, are the first thing it's ever created that can actually observe and understand this process. So the question for us is, now that we're learning how creation works, will we learn how to sustain it?